Today's my mom's death day, March 2nd. And this is one of the first times I'm actually choosing to talk to the camera directly. I don't know if I'm going to use any of this footage or not. It's just an experiment. I need to get comfortable speaking to the camera. And the reason I am choosing to speak to the camera now is because this is a day that really pushes me to the edge of my humanity. This is a day that makes me question why I'm here on earth, that makes me question my place, my context, my connections. It's like I try to trace my existence almost, trace my existence and give it meaning by checking the coordinates that I'm related to, kind of like family constellation in a way. You know, like a star in a constellation is going to give that constellation meaning by giving it a reference point. And my mother was like my North Star, you know, she was like my everything. I was raised by her. She's my main and only family. I have blood family, some other blood family, but it's a little bit few and far between, a little distant, pretty distant. And I was just raised mainly with my mother, and she's who I was the most connected to throughout my whole life up until when she passed 14 years ago, just a few months after I turned 22. I'm 36 now. And these 14 years now amount to me what looks like a human life. You know, by the time I was 14, I started to really feel that I was like really embodying my whole being outside of my mother, in the sense of when I was 13, I was still in the process of pushing her away in order to become who I was and am. And when I was 14, I started to like stand in that being who I was and who I would become to be. And so this year feels really different somehow. I didn't realize. I always approach this day with a little bit of dread, just because it's a marking, because it's a process, yearly process that I go through where memories come back up, where I have to kind of reevaluate, and where also her memory becomes like something important to me to commemorate somehow, because I'm the main person in the world who carries that. But I didn't realize like exactly, I never really know what this day is going to look like for me emotionally. Some days it's been a lot more easeful than others, and obviously that has to do with like life and just what other stories and timelines are being braided, and what other world events are happening, and what the state of my life looks like. But something that hits different this year is some feeling of maturity. Like a maturity of like 14 is like a mature age of a teenager, you know? So now I'm like lifetimes separated from her in a way. And I'm still, over here like folding in on myself, timelines just like piled one on top of the other, and kind of tracing context with stars, constellations in my mind, trying to understand meaning and reason and purpose and presence. And I just realized that that's like just the human condition, right? Like that is the human condition. The human condition is to seek purpose and connection and reason and presence, like Why? Why are we here? What are we doing here? What should we be doing here? Who are we connected to? Are we connected to each other, to ourselves, to the earth, to the stars? How are we connected to those things? You know, it's like, this is the core of what it is to be a human in some way, is just to seek. And yeah, and that's something that I've like always kind of reminded myself through huge waves of grief and pain that I experience, as well as in relation to the death of my mother. You know, when she passed, I kind of, at the moment, though it was like excruciating, one little crutch that I limped along with was a kind of stoic principle that it can always be worse. And I was like, everyone is going to lose their mother. And it's my turn. Everyone experiences the death of someone who matters to them. And it's my turn. And I could have lost her earlier. I could have lost her when I was a teenager and she was sick, and I would have lost everything and had to go live with my aunt, and my life would have been different, you know. And I told myself, at least I had her until now. And that thought almost haunts me in some way, because there's this echo over years of like, at least I had her until now, and I wish I had her until now, you know, like, just wish it could have been a little longer so that I could show her who I was becoming, who I could become with her, so that she could transform with me, so that she could see this fucking shit show of a world and give me a reason why the fuck am I here. And you know, that's also something that weighs really, really heavy on my heart, is that like our world feels like it's going to fucking shit, but it's always been shit in some way, and it's always been beautiful, and it's still beautiful. It's just that she was, you know, part of the civil rights movement and part of the women's movement, and when we had all that shit with Sarah Palin in 2010, you know, she was really, really devastated by it, you know. And yeah, sometimes the weight of the world weighs really heavy on a heart that doesn't have a lot of external beams to hold it up while it's still under construction. I wonder if my heart will ever not be under construction, under renovation, you know, like. And again, I always just remind myself, like, this is just the human experience. Yeah, like, I'm not different than anyone else. I'm not different than anyone else. Same, but different, you know. We're all really, really unique, and we all are humans having this human experience, and it is filled with joy and pain and grief and ecstasy. And usually, for most, it might be filled with more grief and pain than joy and ecstasy. And for others, they may coast through some semblance of neutrality in order to get by, and that's okay too, you know. We all have our own like flavors. So